Shattered to unbreakable. Listen here, sweet sister. Whether you think you have one little crack or you are shattered into a billion pieces, this podcast is going to give you the resources, tools, and skills to help piece yourself back together to form a beautiful, unique, solid, and unbreakable masterpiece. You are listening to Shattered to Unbreakable, the Reclaim podcast. Let's talk. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Shattered to Unbreakable. We've been giggling in the background and super excited to bring you another episode with Ann Kent, our registered dietitian masterpiece of a guest here.
Aww.
And she is the owner of Peas and Hoppiness. And then I have Aubrey here with me. And of course, my name is Brandy. If you don't know that, where have you been? I'm just kidding. So we are going to talk about something that me and Aubrey are super excited about. And when I first met Ann, we met at a networking group, and then we got together and talked about how we can collaborate. And she has so many good ideas for Reclaim. But the cool thing about it is her strategy on intuitive eating is getting to know yourself. And that's exactly what Reclaim is all about. So all three of us are super giddy about that. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to talk about today is, because you're just coming off of some Thanksgiving meals and some time with family, this can be stressful or it can be joyful. You might have overeaten for various reasons. You might be feeling guilty or shameful about that. You might be on a weight loss journey. You might be like me and you can eat whatever you want to stay skinny. I know everyone hates me. It's fine. But I still struggle with food too. I don't gain weight, but I get tired and I get cranky and I get brain fog. And so there's lots of different things you can experience when you're not eating intuitively. And we're going to learn what that means. So kind of intro us into what is intuitive eating and how did you come across it?
Yeah, thank you for that introduction because so intuitive eating it's actually quite a structured program. It was developed by two dietitians, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. You can go read the book. It's incredible. Intuitive Eating. They're on like their 4th edition or something. They keep updating it with new science.
I love that.
Yeah. So it is really evidence-based, this approach. There are 10 principles and they range from everything from number 1 is reject the diet mentality.
Don't you love that?
Oh my gosh. My favorite. Yeah. It's powerful. That one in and of itself.
Yeah.
To other principles are, some of the other ones are, honor your hunger and fullness. Another one is experience the satisfaction factor. It's not actually until the very end. And principle number 10 is gentle nutrition. And so intuitive eating is actually, there's so much in it. And we don't talk about the what of eating until we talk about a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. And
gotcha.
I think that's, in my experience working one-on-one with clients, that's how our sessions go, is that, we think oftentimes that food is the problem, but oftentimes I find that food is actually the symptom and there's something underneath. There's oftentimes an unmet need being left there on the table and we are using food as a coping mechanism.
Yes. God, that's so accurate.
Well, and I want to let me also just remove any shame around food as a coping mechanism because it is both glorified in our culture of like, oh, you broke up with your boyfriend, eat a pint of ice cream. Like we have that narrative in our brain. And then we also have all this shame around emotional eating. But I always want to remind my clients, like when you choose food as a coping mechanism, there's a lot of much worse coping mechanisms that you are not choosing.
True. That's so true.
So if food is a coping mechanism, you are not an evil person. That is okay. There's a reason. There's a biological reason that food is comforting. It's because it's our basic need as a human being. The thing that we want to really ask is what is not being met and how can we serve you better? How can we honor your body better and really meet the need with the thing that you are requiring?
Oh, my mind is racing with all of the ideas right now because I know a lot of our listeners are trauma recovery, like narcissistic abuse or childhood abuse, or I guess those are really the big ones that we talk about the most. But yeah, there's cultural reasons why we eat. I know being from the South, it's a lot of butter and a lot of fat and a lot of carbs and rice. And, the obesity rate is huge down there, but it has a lot to do with the culture. Those people are happy. They may be big, but they are happy people.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it just, and I always go back to the input, like, who are we listening to?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we letting judge our bodies and how happy we are and what success looks like?
Mm.
So I love the idea that we're going to dive into getting to know ourselves, and how eating is, I guess, related to how well we know ourselves. So what is something, can we talk about something a lot of people struggle with, maybe generally? And we kind of talked about it earlier, but the whole idea of eating for weight loss, we were kind of touching on. So maybe we can touch on trauma at the end, but I'm kind of understanding that that might be a bigger issue versus weight loss, because trauma eating, you probably need to first, like you said, uncover the trauma with a therapist first, and then understand your body and why you're doing what you're doing. And it'll probably make sense. But maybe we should, what do you think? Should we talk about weight loss or the trauma?
Well, those are two big topics. So let's start with a little bit with trauma, because I think that trauma can sometimes be the, gateway into weight issues or food issues.
Okay.
In fact, there's research behind that. I don't know if you're familiar with the ACE scores, which stands for Adverse Childhood Events.
Ooh.
So there's research done by Harvard that links the number of adverse childhood events. And these are things that are obviously traumatic. So if you experienced abuse, or if you experienced hunger, or don't quote me on what exactly they are, but you can look up the ACE study from Harvard. And the higher the ACE score, the more likely you are to have a chronic illness, diabetes, heart disease, even cancer. So it's not even trauma sets itself in the body in a way that I think we like to glaze over, because it's so hard. Trauma is hard.
It is.
I mean, and getting through it and over it and healing is hard, because you have to relive some of that.
Exactly.
So oftentimes we can, that's one way that we can cope. So we can, it depends how deep you want to go. But one thing I find a lot of times moving into the weight loss is that when I have a client who comes to me and they're like, well, I want to do intuitive eating for weight loss. We have to unpack, first of all, intuitive eating and weight loss actually don't go together. They can't. They are contraindicated. If you are intentionally trying to shrink your body, you can't intuitively eat.
And so crazy to me. That is like,
it's really hard, and it's so hard to give up too. But weight, I think weight is really overstated in our culture and in medicine as to how, quote unquote, important it is, or how much it impacts even your health.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that it doesn't impact your health or your happiness at all, but I think that the amount of focus that we put on it is overstated.
Right.
There are a lot of other things. And the other problem is weight is, I call it like a secondary measure. So you have your behaviors that you can do things about. You have these like secondary measures that we measure at the doctor's office or measure at home or whatever. And then we have the actual outcomes that you care about. And weight is neither a behavior change, nor is it an outcome, but we conflate it with both of those things. So you go to the doctor's like, oh, you're overweight, you need to go lose weight. That is not a behavior that you can change. The only way that you could lose weight is you could go to the bathroom, or you could like cut off an appendage. But other than that, you cannot physically lose weight, quote unquote. You can change what you're eating. You can exercise more. You can take a weight loss medication, and that's a whole other thing that I won't get into. But there are behaviors that you can do. Weight will change. Not only weight, but your blood pressure, your cholesterol, all of these other labs will also change. But which of those things do we focus on? We only focus on weight. Has your doctor ever said to you, I want you to go home and lower your cholesterol? Like, how ridiculous would that be? But that's what we do with weight. And then on the flip side, when we talk about what is it that you actually want, the outcome. Yeah. Weight is a surrogate measure for things like joy or contentment or feeling accepted or feeling loved or feeling confident. And it's those things that you really want, feeling healthy, being able to play with your kids. Those are actually the things that matter. Right. But for some reason, well, I know why. It's because weight is easy. It's a number that we can measure that you kind of feel like you can have control over. Right. But in reality, it's not actually either of those. Yeah. So
that's so Cool. There's so much I want to touch on because I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, oh, this friend, this friend, this friend. And I'm just thinking of people as we go, because there's one friend that I have that she's been overweight her whole life. Even when she was a kid, she goes to gets labs. They're all healthy. She's literally the healthiest person that I know. And she's by standards of comparison overweight. And then I have another friend who is so incredibly disciplined with diet and exercise, but still can't lose like stubborn weight around certain areas. And I actually had a conversation with her and I was like, I feel like you stressing about losing weight is causing you to not lose weight. And I don't know if I'm right or not, but the cortisol levels from being stressed about it for years.
Yeah, not good. Yeah, we're not really, I mean, as humans, we're designed for spikes in cortisol. I think you even just had a podcast that I listened to that you were like, that's for chasing, like if a bear is chasing you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yes, chronic stress has so much more of an impact than I think like Western medicine hasn't quite caught up with how impactful stress is. And partly it's because like, what do we do with this information? Right. Like we are not very good at dealing with it. And honestly, the answer to the questions you're asking are so nuanced. It means I have 50 more questions to ask you before I could start to answer.
Right.
You know, and I think that is what diet culture really misses. It really reduces things to a formula. And then it says like, do this and do this. And if you do this, then this will happen. But that is not how human beings work. Yeah. We have so many things that affect us, whether it's your genetics or your sleep patterns, or the people around you, your stress levels, like all of those things will impact your physical size. It is not just this calories in, calories out model that we've been fed. And it is not your lack of discipline. I can't even tell you how much I hate that message that you just need to be more disciplined. That is not it.
Yeah. Wow.
So I really want to talk about what we were talking about before with how our bodies are designed and famines and the pendulum. But you want to take a break real quick and we'll come back to that?
Yes. Aubrey's so good. We need to take a break real quick to hear from our favorite sponsors ever. We'll be right back. What if I told you you could make a bigger impact, get more done, and also feel confident and energized while doing it, no longer exhausted or distracted by the world around you? Through a series of streamlined systems, we have designed the Peace Out Burnout online course, where we help you create aligned habits and achieve massive goals, especially for you high achievers out there that are tired of the exhausting yet falsely glorified grind. The Reclaim strategy is hands down the best system for sparking your true purpose, eliminating distractions and burnout, and streamlining your progress to those dare to dream goals now. Inside of this course, you are going to have access to our signature dump and bump method of decluttering and detoxifying everything you didn't know was keeping you on repeat. You'll also learn our Tears Tell a Story strategy that teaches you to use your body's cues to uncover your true, authentic purpose. And you'll also hear about our trademarked goal diversification strategy to reverse engineer your massive goals into aligned habits and streamlined progress that get you big wins now. Go to stan.store/reclaim your story now for the Peace Out Burnout online course. 8 proven steps we use to build aligned habits that make even your most massive goals attainable. And welcome back. I'm so awkward, you guys. I love it. Jinx. Okay. We're going to talk about bodies not being our enemies.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about weight loss, I think a lot of times diet culture sort of like pits us against our body.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit crazy when you think about it because we are our body.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I have someone who has struggled with dieting for years and it's like, oh my gosh, it just like I lose weight and then it comes back and I lose weight and it comes back. And I like to remind them that that is because their body is literally trying to prevent them from dying. They're trying to keep them alive. If you think about the course of our human existence, it's only in the very recent time frame that we have had plenty of food.
Yeah.
For most of human existence, famines were quite dangerous to our existence.
Right.
And when you are on a diet that you feel hungry on and you is too few of calories, your body reads that as a famine. It does not know that this is an option and that there is food nearby. It reads that as it did 200 years ago. And it responds in that way. And so as soon as that artificial famine is removed, as soon as you stop the diet, your body pendulum swings back to overeating. And that's where almost all binge episodes or out of control eating, those feelings, many times they stem from restriction. And it's not because you don't have control. It's a natural, normal response. One of the best analogies I heard on this is if you think about, an analogy is breathing. So calories are as essential to our body as oxygen. If you went swimming and you went underwater and you spent 3 minutes underwater holding your breath and you came up for air, you're not going to breathe normally. You're going to gasp for air. And so when your body is in that caloric restriction, in that famine state, when you get out of it, it's like coming out of the pool and your body is gasping for calories. It is such a great analogy. Hungry. And so the out of control feelings, it's not you, it's that restriction. So that's honestly the first thing that I work with a lot of my clients is making sure that they're fed, because a lot of us aren't fueling properly during the day. And so by the time, and it's not intentional. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm trying to be good, I'm having a salad. But what ends up happening is that you're in a caloric deficit by the end of the day. You get home, you're tired from work. You've had a million things. You don't have the quote unquote willpower because you've used it doing your job. Now you have two things. You're tired and you have a biological need. You are physically very hungry. And so that's when that out of control feeling happens.
Right. That makes so much sense.
Oh my goodness, I'm so inspired. So I've had all of my life up until I had kids, I had like Brandy's metabolism. I was raised very, very thin, and I kind of took that for granted, and I could eat whatever I wanted. And I just always had this very trim figure. And then I had babies, and they're not going anywhere. So, and I've tried the diets and they work for a bit, and then I pendulum swing back. And Brandy and I were talking before about I'm not going to focus on the scale. I'm not going to focus on the measuring tape. I'm going to focus on what my body is doing, what I like that it's doing, and what I wish it did better. And like a big part of it is my joints. My knees hurt when I climb stairs. So instead of focusing on losing pounds so that my joints don't have to carry so much, I'm going to work on training my joints. And I would love to have more endurance, like jumping with my kids on the trampoline. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to increase my cardio. And so I love that the intuitive eating separates that a bit, that it's not about weight loss at all. That, because that's so much of changing your body depends on working your body and not so much what you're eating. So I mean, I'm not the dietitian, but that's just little bits of what I picked up on. So like I could eat salad all day, every day, but if I'm not moving my body appropriately, it's not going to have the impact. So focusing on what I want my body to do, how I want it to feel, more than what I want it to look like and what I'm putting into it.
And I love the stressor on, not stressor. I love the emphasis on functionality being the outcome versus a number on a scale or how your body looks. Functionality, like you said, like for instance, I mean, I'm thin, but I don't eat very well to maintain my figure. In fact, when I eat better, I still lose weight. I have to exercise to keep my muscle mass up to stay at what I feel like is a healthy weight. And my healthy weight to me is judged by, am I pulling muscles very often? Like if I stop working out, I get thinner. And then my mom keeps asking me if I'm sick because my cheeks are sunken. But it's the functionality, like these kinks in my neck that I get that are so painful. I don't get them as much if I'm working out. And if I am, when I sleep at night, I wake up with lower back pain if I'm not doing core work. But also on the flip side, all of my workout regimens are like 5 to 6 days working out and then a rest day. Well, I've learned that sucks. And I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
I've actually learned that I prefer 2 to 3 days of full body workouts and
Great.
3 to 4 days rest. And I still feel good and I still maintain muscle mass. But what's interesting to me, and I'm a personal trainer even, or was, is that I had to listen to a person that I admire say that he only does workouts 2 or 3 times a week, full body. And he is very successful and has a great physique and blah, blah, blah. So like, and I'm in the business of knowing myself and trusting myself. And I still had to wait to hear permission from somebody that I admired that that's okay. So yeah, talk to us. What?
Oh,
explain me.
Well, I mean, I think you're speaking to how prevalent diet culture is. It's in everything. Even if you've never been on a diet, you have been exposed to diet culture. Nobody is immune. And gosh, I work with so many people who started their first diet when they were a kid, when they were 10. And man, is that a long time to hate your body?
Seriously.
Like, it's just awful. And so there's like a ton of unlearning. There's a ton of healing. Like your body has to heal from those times. When you were just talking about like the difference, Aubrey, between like, you know, before and after kids, I think it's also really important to normalize that bodies change.
Yes.
And it's not normal to be your high school weight your entire life.
Yeah.
That's not a realistic expectation. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. I can't remember if we were recording when we were talking about like a body weight and like, is it healthy? Like, where is healthy? But there's a lot of problems with the BMI, for example,
Yes.
which is,
oh my gosh.
It's a measure of, if you're not familiar with the BMI, it stands for body mass index, and it's basically a math equation that divides your weight by your height. It was originally developed to be used in population studies, so in epidemiologic research. It was never intended to be a metric used on an individual level. But oh my gosh, you cannot get away from it. It is like you can't bill insurance in a doctor's office unless you have a BMI. Like there are ridiculous things tied to these numbers
and they're so skewed based on your makeup. Athletes score way higher than they should.
Exactly. Yes, because it doesn't include muscle mass. And there's also research that shows that actually a slightly higher BMI is healthier, has a lower risk of death than a low BMI.
Right.
And that is not at all in the conversation in our culture. We praise people all the time for weight loss, but we never ask why. And there's a lot of reasons that weight loss is unhealthy. Are you depressed? Do you have cancer? Are you, sick to your stomach every day? Like these are, and so, we get this message reinforced, which causes a ton of disordered eating patterns at best, actual eating disorders at worst.
Right.
So anyway, I think it's so important to normalize bodies changing, to understand that, eating can be difficult on both ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And actually, just because you're thin doesn't mean that you're healthy, even though that's what society is telling us.
Yes. Oh, I feel like there's just so much discovery and therapy behind intuitive eating. Like, I love the idea of if you have trauma and you have eating habits that aren't working for you, but you don't know why you can't stop. I do know, like, I struggled with sugar intake for a long time. And this is a childhood thing. Like, we had sugar all the time. I even have people in my family who are now type 2 diabetic because of this lifestyle that we lived, And so I really wanted to get off of sugar for probably 15 years. I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried. And it's so funny because it has nothing to do with weight loss or weight gain. I just wanted to get off sugar because I know how bad it is for me. But this whole thing, like, it was like an addiction to drugs. It was like, I would try to get off of it and I would go for like 3 or 4 days. And then I would be cranky, irritable. And then I would just binge eat tons of it until I was sick to my stomach. But I was like happy about it. It was so weird. Yeah. And then I would be shaming afterwards. Literally the only thing that helped me get away from this sugar addiction was therapy. So brain spotting is what helped me, but there's so many different types of therapy, EMDR, talk therapy, emotions-based therapy, or I think it's called emotions-focused therapy. So many different kinds of therapy that you can go do. But brain spotting is what clicked for me. And it was weird because it went from I can't have sugar, that mentality of I can't have it, to why am I eating sugar?
Yes. I love that shift.
Yeah.
That's a
and
powerful shift.
I couldn't figure out why I was doing it. I'm like,
Mhm.
is it the taste? But is the taste worth it? It's so short and it leaves as soon as I'm done eating it. And what is the taste really doing for me? It doesn't improve my emotional state. It doesn't make me feel better. Why am I so obsessed with the taste? And then when I would think about my budget, I'm spending money on this. What's the money going to? What could I be spending money on instead? There's just all these thoughts of why came up. And that's the only way I was able to get away from it. And now I can have sugar every now and then, but I still don't really understand why I'm doing it. So I am less likely to do it. But I notice it's in times where I'm tired or I don't know what to snack on or I'm kind of bored. It's like, it's a very empty thing, which is interesting to think about now.
Well, there's a couple of different layers that I'm thinking of as you're talking. And so one is autonomy. And I think we underestimate the importance of autonomy for human beings. And that's where that diet versus intuitive eating really differs. One of the big misconceptions about intuitive eating is that if you're an intuitive eater, you just eat whatever you want, whenever you want, and I'll go crazy. And there can be a little pendulum swing as we're working through intuitive eating, but it's not intuitive eating if that's where you land.
Right.
But really so the autonomy. So what I'm talking about is control, which I think a better word is autonomy. Because diets mean that this locus of control is outward.
Yes.
Someone else is telling you when to eat, how much to eat, what to eat, etc. Intuitive eating, it doesn't take away control. It just moves it inwardly. So you ask those questions.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you go from, I feel restricted because I'm not supposed to eat this,
right,
to I wonder what my real need is. How do I meet that need?
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be with sugar when I am enjoying a sugar cookie at Christmas time. And sometimes it might be I need some rest and journaling because my mind is tired
right,
and I need a space. But there is also biology behind why we crave sugar. It gives us a dopamine.
It does, yes.
It does. Now, there is some myths around sugar being addictive. Sugar is not addictive in the same way that, say, methamphetamine is addictive.
Okay.
Sugar is addictive in the way that exercise is addictive.
Okay.
So
you're addicted to the pleasure piece, the satisfaction.
Yes.
You're talking about
Exactly.
satisfaction.
Yes. So it's not bad to enjoy that. I think a lot of times where we miss the mark in our culture specifically is when we're not actually getting satisfaction of it. We're not actually fully engaged because we're distracted, or because people are telling us we should eat this, or because we feel obligated because our family is like, are you sure you don't want this third helping of mashed potatoes? And you're like, oh my gosh, I already told you 4 times no, but I feel rude, so there's just all of these messages in our culture, again, even outside of being on a diet, that mess with those hunger cues and mess with our ability to really honor that.
Right. Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah. So much sense. And I'm also I know this is probably totally off topic, but I always wonder about making my kids finish their plate. I don't like making them finish their plate because I feel like it's teaching them not to be intuitive, but also I don't want to give them the freedom to just not eat. Kids will eat nothing very good for them if you let them. So it's how do I find the balance of teaching my kids how to eat intuitively and letting them know the why behind what I'm serving and why we're eating this healthy food? And, and I really don't have sugar much in the house anymore because I'm really getting sick of them eating their dinner just to have the sugar treat afterwards. I don't want that to be a mentality of I'm eating with the goal of getting the treat.
Right.
Not I'm eating with the goal of nourishing my body.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of lines up with how I used to be. And now that shift in me has helped, but I'm not sure how to pass it on. Well, we could record an entire episode on this because there are books written about picky eating. I actually have a blog post that we can post in the show notes. Fun.
For 7 tips for how to address picky eating. I would say that your intuition is right, that we want to be really careful to not get in the way of our kids' intuitive eating cues because kids are born intuitive eaters. And I'll use the example of a nursing infant. If you try to give an infant a bottle when they're not hungry, it is impossible. They do not want it. They will spit that bottle out.
Yes.
And vice versa. If you are not giving them a bottle when it's time, when they are hungry, they are going to scream until you give them a bottle. So, we're born with the cues.
Right.
they kind of get lost in the noise along the way.
Mhm.
And so what can you as a parent to do to foster this? One thing is that I heard you mention, like with, eating to get the treat or whatever. One thing that can be really helpful is to keep foods morally equivalent.
Okay.
And it's different than nutritionally equivalent because we do understand that different foods have different things that nourish our bodies. But sometimes when we do that, you have to finish your dinner to get the treat.
Mhm.
What we accidentally do is we tell them that this food is better than this food.
Okay.
And so that can sort of like backfire in the long run.
Right.
It can work in the short term. It's sort of like the diet thing. Like they work in the short term, but in the long term, it can be a little bit disconnecting. So a lot of pediatric dietitians who work with families will recommend actually serving dessert with dinner.
Okay.
And it's super uncomfortable when you first start this theory.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Mhm.
I've recently actually heard that.
I mean, I will tell you based on my personal experience with my toddler that it works. It's really interesting to watch a native intuitive eater. I'm like practicing all of these things. I'm like, does this really work? Actually, it does. It's crazy. So yes, serving all of the food at the same time and allowing them to choose, it won't work at first.
Right.
So the first dinner, they're going to like eat like 4 brownies and then you're going to just talk through like how they feel. Like, oh, like is your body, like when they inevitably like get a stomach ache at some point, they're like, oh man, when I do this, I don't feel good.
Yes.
Their body knows. And so like instilling within them that they can trust their body to tell them and to just notice and like make a change. So, okay. So like dinner and then having some of those treats more often also takes a little bit of the like excitement out of them because they're just like around all the time.
Gotcha.
It was so funny. My toddler one day, he was like, I want ice cream. Like, I mean, he can't speak that well, but he's like in the freezer, like ice cream. Yeah. And I'm like, we're having like pizza for dinner. It was like, one of those nights. And I'm like, whatever, if you want some ice cream at dinner. So we got him a bowl of ice cream. We cut up his pizza. He ate like 1 bite of his ice cream and then did not finish it. And I'm just like, this is so fascinating. Yeah. So I think a lot of that perception of kids will overeat this thing is actually our projection of our own experience with that, which again, oftentimes comes from restricting that thing.
Yes. Well, an overcorrection. I obviously grew up with a lot of sugar. I don't like that I was so dependent on it. And now I don't want my kids to do that. So I'm like overcorrecting.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, crap.
I know. It's okay. You can pendulum swing back. Like that's how pendulums work, right? Like you swing and each swing is a little bit less until you find your center. So
ooh, I like that.
You're doing fine.
Each swing's a little bit less.
Yeah.
So I think moral of this episode is that you need to unpack the why. Mm-hmm. The reason your life is the way it is because of what your past has inside of it. And so if you don't like something about how your life is right now, you've got to figure out where that happened and how to change it. I just saw something today. It said, if you're not changing it, you're choosing it. And I think that most of us, that especially those of you listening to this podcast, want change. That's why you're here. And you just don't know how or what to do. And so, I always recommend therapy just to figure out the why behind what's going on with you. But then when you understand the why, all of this becomes much easier. Everything with Reclaim, with your budget, with your relationships, with your parenting, with your eating, with your exercise, even the functionality, your goals, understanding a clear purpose as to why you're doing what you're doing and where you're going in life. I mean, it's just so amazing once you gain clarity. So yeah, I think, I will leave you with some to-dos. Look into therapy, buy the Reclaim guide, download Peas and Happiness. All the things. No, but I just appreciate you so much. I feel like we just scratched the surface on intuitive eating. Seriously, we could do a few. So
it's so good.
I'm going to do a poll, and those of you listeners that want to hear more about intuitive eating and how that relates to past trauma and your goals in life, tell us what you want to hear about that. Because 10 principles, maybe we could list them in the show notes, and you guys can say like, I want to hear more about this one and this one.
Oh, that'd be great.
Because there's satisfaction factor, which we didn't touch on as much as we did before. You guys missed out on all the good stuff before we recorded, but I love the message of just do what feels good.
Yeah.
And but not like, the psychiatry term is hedonism, not just focusing on selfish pleasure, but what truly functionally feels good to you. Do that. And then just screw what everyone else says. Like society, comparison. I was just talking to somebody about, who was I talking about? Oh yeah, yes. Her name's Sammy Jo. I'm sure you'll probably hear from her too. But we were talking about how it's like going in and out of style. Like something could be popular. Like we were talking about Reclaim and how we're so big on effective rest and peaceful productivity and understanding and knowing yourself. Well, that might be in style this month. And then next month, it's going to be back to the boss babe grind. That's what's in style. It's like bell bottoms and high-waisted pants. And now we're back to low-rise pants. I don't know.
No, is that? No.
Yes, it's coming back. And I don't know why,
awful.
because I feel like high-rise didn't stay very long.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm not
I really
going back
like
to
them.
low-rise. I don't have low-rise hips. Sorry.
Yeah, I really loved the high-rise. I think I might be one of those moms that just stocks up and like lets that fad last.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm that mom now. But yeah, so the fact that all of these trends and this frog in my throat and then everything you were talking about before, it's like, it's just fads. They go in and out. But what doesn't go in and out is your true authentic self and the control that you have over what you choose to do. That never goes out of style. You're super cool all the time. So yeah, I feel like that's a good thing to end on.
I love it.
I do. I think that you rounded it out so nicely, but I'm going to mess it up. Because
Do it.
I really love that talking about letting your toddler have dessert with dinner or your children have dessert with dinner and talking about the natural consequences of that. And I think that that's something that as adult, just myself, that I don't do, right? Like I make a bad choice. I recognize it was a bad choice, but I'm like, that was stupid. You knew better than that. Why did you do that? That was really dumb. Instead of like, you made a choice. It didn't feel very good. What were you trying to accomplish with that choice? Do we like the way this feels?
Yes.
Very no.
Very no.
So
Yeah.
what can we do
Yeah.
differently in the future and really learning from it instead of just berating ourselves over like you ate 4 brownies with dinner, which thankfully toddlers don't talk to themselves like this.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Which is great, but we do.
Right.
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
So,
and that goes with along with what you said in like the very beginnings of our whole podcast journey is to live life curiously.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself more questions, but do it gently. I mean, that's what we teach in our guide is like, do ask yourself questions as if you were talking to a 5-year-old. That's how you should be talking to yourself. Don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to a 5-year-old. So ask yourself why, like me with sugar, why do I want this Reese's? It tastes good. Yes. But what does that do for me?
My client just today, I think she summed it up really nicely. She said, it's like I have the freedom to choose.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
like
a
you
lot
said,
of freedom.
autonomy, control.
Yeah.
There's freedom and control.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
I feel like so many, like after a binge episode, I just 2 days ago ate all the feelings. And I feel like I tell myself like after a binge episode, like I felt like I couldn't help, you know, but like you're saying, getting back to the why of it and you get your choice back. No, I made a choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced on me. I made a choice to do that, to eat that way. Why did I do that?
Yeah. What was the need?
Analyze.
Yeah.
Like what? Sometimes I'll change the language just slightly because I think why can sometimes feel like blaming. And so sometimes when I work with my clients, it's like, I wonder what was going on. I wonder what you were feeling. I wonder. So yeah, I love
what
you
was
said,
the
like,
need. I like
curiosity
that.
without
What was
judgment.
the need?
Yeah.
What was the need you were trying to meet?
Behaviors are everyone's best attempt at getting their needs met, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's
I
what that
love
is.
too. So many one-liners in here. Say that again.
Behaviors
Exactly, word for
are
word.
our best attempt to get our needs met.
I like that.
I mean, it helps me to understand my toddler too, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know, like, oh,
Yes.
he's screaming. Okay, well, he doesn't maybe have the greatest tools right now. So
Right.
he's expressing his needs. So, but
Yeah.
we are too, right? Like adults are just big kids. And
That's so incredible.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have to do
Okay.
another episode on because I'm learning a lot of cool stuff in psychology about kids and their
Mhm.
brains and what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given me so much grace for my kiddos because we expect them to be better than we are
Yeah.
when their brains literally can't do it.
Right.
They don't even have the capacity. And then also we can talk about how that affects their eating
Mhm.
and the love and logic. It kind of feels like a
Mhm.
love and logic approach
Mm-hmm.
to letting them have that choice and seeing what the consequences are. Just
Mhm.
like, I don't want to wear my coat. Well, instead of fighting about a coat,
Yeah.
say, okay, you're not going to wear your coat. It's 45 degrees outside.
Mhm.
You might be chilly. And then they're shivering like, Mom, I wish I would have had my coat. Yes. And then, of course, my kids are like, you should have grabbed it. And it's not my coat.
Right.
I have my coat on. I told you to grab your coat because I was worried you would be chilly. It is your responsibility to
Mhm.
protect your body. So anyway, yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Segues into all the things.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to?
I'm going to actually let you end the episode this time.
That was perfect, though. I feel like it was important. Everything you say is awesome. So
What?
I'm never upset about it. Okay. Anything else from you, Anne?
I mean, enjoy, right? Like, enjoy
Yes.
the holidays. Food is joy. It is so many things. So,
Yeah. Just ask yourself why.
yeah.
Or not why. What is
What
the
is
need?
the need?
What
your
is
need?
what is the need?
Mhm.
Maybe you just need a hug.
Yeah.
Or a kiss. All right. Well, I hope you guys loved that because I loved it and I want more. I'm sure you do too. So we'll have Anne back, but thank you again for doing this episode with us. Thank you, Aubrey, for keeping me on track. And thank you all of you listeners for humoring me and making me feel important and loved by all of you. So we'll see you. Wait, are we doing another one after this? Yes, we'll do some more.
So.
We'll do some holiday stuff for y'all.
Yes.
So we'll be back next week. Love you guys. Stay sparkly.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We love having you, and that is why we want to offer you some more resources. We have a website called thereclaimstrategy.com, as well as our stan.store/reclaimyourstory. Either one of these is going to give you freebies, affordable online courses, resources about overcoming anxiety, so many great things. One of the best freebies we have right now is our 25 Peaceful Productivity Hacks. It's an ebook on our Stan Store that is going to lead you through finding peaceful productivity in your daily life. I also want to highlight our Self-Care Haven subscription box. It is absolutely amazing. I love that you get tea, a new tea that goes with our theme. You get self-care hacks inside of your box. You also get a loose leaf infuser included so that you can use your new tea. Another version of this box is the luxury box. This is where you will have a self-development book chosen by Reclaim to go with the theme, as well as bath salts or candles, depending on the season. So go check all of that out. We love you so much. We'll see you next week. Stay sparkly, sweet sisters.